Sorry, I got so drunk on Halloween.
Oh, mate, no, don't apologise. What are you apologising for?
Oh, because I can't remember going to bed. So I must have been absolutely... That's when I was interrupting people and then just making no sense. Go,
Turn the camera on.
Better.
Oh, God.
Mr. Pipes.
It's banging on the walls.
Britain. An ancient kingdom with legends of violence, cruelty, and torment in its blood. Join your hosts, Ross, John, and James, as they bravely tread where few would dare. Witness their journey into the horrific history of British horror. They are the General Witchfinders.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, goblins and ghouls, welcome back to the 18th episode of the General Witchfinders podcast. I'm James in Bournemouth in southern England.
I'm John Powney. I'm still in South Wales, which is in the south of Wales.
I'm Ross, and I'm still in Dorchester on the southern coast. And today we are going to cover Stephen Volk's Ghostwatch.
So welcome live this Halloween night to the first ever TV Ghostwatch. That's the scene in Foxhill Drive in Northolt. Our outside broadcast units are there. That's the house where it might all happen tonight, or it might not. We shall see. We're going to investigate one of the most baffling and fascinating areas of human experience, the supernatural. Tonight, television is going ghost hunting in an unprecedented scientific experiment where we hope to show you, for the first time, irrefutable proof that ghosts really do exist. I'm joined in the studio by Dr. Lynn Pascoe to give her expert technical advice. Throughout the programme, I'll be taking other expert opinion about the supernatural from both here and America. You'll be telling us your ghost stories. And as our tale unfolds, we'll be taking your calls about just what you're seeing. Well, let's go to the main location of our programme, the house in Foxhill Drive. Craig Charles, a well-known ghost hunter, is our reporter. Craig, how are you?
Hi, Michael. Yeah, I'm fine. I've taken the Valium, man.
Ghostwatch, a drama produced for the BBC anthology series Screen 1, is a British reality horror pseudo-documentary television film broadcast on BBC One on Halloween night 1992. Written by Stephen Volk and directed by Lesley Manning, despite being recorded weeks in advance, the narrative was presented as live television. During and following its first and only UK television broadcast, the show attracted considerable furore, resulting in an estimated 1 million phone call inquiries to the BBC switchboard on the night of broadcast, comprising a mixture of complaints and praise for the programme's unique presentation. These calls included a call from Michael Parkinson's own concerned mother and a very nervous 15-year-old Ross. Ghostwatch has never been repeated on UK television. The story, based on the tale of the legendary Enfield poltergeist, was put into production months before and was complete fiction. The presentation contained realistic elements which suggested to a casual viewer that it was an actual documentary. The studio scenes were recorded in Studio D, BBC Elstree Studios, Clarendon Road. The scenes at the house and the street were all shot on location around 5 to 6 weeks before the recording of the studio scenes.
Oh, interesting.
The recorded scenes in the house and street were then played into the studio where Michael Parkinson, Mike Smith, and Dr. Pascoe had to interact with them. It earned the dubious honour of being the first television programme to be cited in the British Medical Journal as having caused post-traumatic stress disorder in children. As featured in his collection, Dark Corners, screenwriter Stephen Volk wrote a short story entitled 3110, which is effectively a sequel to Ghostwatch. The piece was later selected for the year's best fantasy and horror, 2007. Right, well, I didn't know that straight away, Ross. Really? Have you read it?
No, but there's a PDF on the internet, so if you search...
Oh, interesting.
Ooh. Oh, okay.
To say that 1 million people phoned in is a bit much, because they give the phone number out all the way through the program, don't they? So it's
yeah, that was probably one of the tabloids afterwards, exaggerating somewhat.
Of course.
But,
well, 1 million people might have called in, but it's like they weren't ringing in to complain. They were actually asked to ring in during the program, weren't they?
The
so
show.
It was a mix of.
Well, we rang up because when it panned. When they first went past and you see Pipes for the first time in the window, and then they pan up way again, I can remember going, I can see him, and I'm trying to ring up to tell him I can sing him, but it was just engaged, and just like, we're just so, everyone was so scared.
I'd like to know who got through and what happened when you got through. If it was
apparently,
just like,
if you got through, you got a recording saying it's fake.
Yeah.
This is not real. However, please leave your ghost stories, and they recorded your ghost stories.
And what did they do with them? I wonder after that.
Well, it's all part of the big seance, isn't it?
They put them within, some kind of mad gelatinous brain somewhere that's just endlessly replaying these ghost stories to itself.
Oh, that sounds like a really good Doctor episode.
Before we get into the whole kind of going through it, do we all want to talk about like our experiences of watching it for both of our listeners?
To be honest, as you are recounting that, James, I have a big suspicion that a television show that I appeared on that week, one of two television shows that I appeared on very close together, would have shared the same radio times as this was on the cover of. Oh. And I've just thought of that now, and I hadn't thought of it earlier. So I was on the Ross King show in Pebble Mill in late 1992, and I was also with my mother and my nan. I was also in Kilroy in late.
A child genius taken to a hotel to be mentored by a Russian.
What do you think it's like living with a man who puts the bottle before you and the kids? You walked out on your husband and your kids because you were bored. You split up with your ex 7 years ago and you're still in love with him. You're 40 and nobody wants you. You walked out on your kids and you call yourself their mother. You let your kids eat their way to an early grave. You're surrounded by your family and friends, and you're lonely. Your partner keeps trying to get you out of your clothes because he hates them. You expect to be paid for caring for your elderly relatives. You go out 3 times a week. You get blind drunk. You have casual sex, and you get into fights. But you're a girl.
I can remember being off ill of school and watching the Kilroy after Firstborn was aired, and everyone being quite upset about that.
That's going to be on a future one of these, isn't it?
Yes. So I would almost certainly say I think I was in that, because it all ties up in my memory now, because it was the end of, I'd say it was October. Because I can remember.
So you'd been 13, 14 about that time then?
I would have been 14, yes. And so we went to stay in a hotel outside Heathrow Airport, and then the recording was in Teddington Studios, which isn't there anymore. And it was a Kilroy about the bad influence of soap operas on the public. And my nan pulled up the producer of Emmerdale Farm, because at that point they'd just gone from Emmerdale Farm to just Emmerdale. And my nan wanted to know why they were reducing the farming quota within Emmerdale Farm. That's a big issue of the day.
What you dragged along though?
Some people we knew were on Kilroy one week, and they said, "Do you know anyone that will come on that watches a lot of television?" And they said me. So I went. I just can't remember saying. I don't know if I said anything, but my nan had a go at the woman about Emmerdale Farm
farming quota.
We met Madge and Harold. We met loads of people off the bill. We met some people off Emmerdale, actually. But it was a funny day. And my nan loved Kilroy Silk, so she was very pleased to meet Kilroy Silk. Because at that point, he was a bit of a heartthrob, wasn't he? He didn't turn he wasn't the Brexit-toting UKIP twat that he is now.
Is he still alive?
Yeah,
I believe so. Do you remember when he was sprayed with like farm slurry?
Yes, by my nan.
From her own arse.
My nan was disgusting. Right, hang on. I'm going to see if he's still alive. Carry on with your memories of. I haven't said anything about actual.
No,
Ghostwatch, but that's what it made you think of.
Yes.
You've set the scene beautifully, though, Joe.
I can remember watching Ghostwatch, and with my sister, who would have been 6 or 7 at the time, and her being absolutely terrified of pipes. I can remember being convinced it was real up until the end, when it all kicked off at the end, and just think, and watching it in my house with all the lights off. It was me, my brother, my sister, and my dad, I believe.
Right,
and just being absolutely terrified by it. And just thinking,
wow,
it was ticking all the things which scared me from reading things like The Unexplained and documentaries about ghosts and stuff, and like the reel-to-reel tapes of like ghost voices and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, shit me up.
Robert Kilroy Silk, 79.
Ooh, same age as my dad.
Quite elderly. Same age as my dad.
Let's just hope that this episode does not kill off Kilroy Silk.
Or my dad.
James, how do you remember it, James?
Oh, so much, so well, crystal clear. Right. Yeah. So the thing was, and I'm going to get some shade off of Ross for this, but I have to be truthful and honest. I was attending the Halloween party of a girl from our year who I really fancied.
Yes.
Who lived not too like Ross's
Why
face.
wasn't I invited? That's the first time I heard of this. Anyway, continue.
Right. Anyway, she didn't live too far away from me, and she had said to me, "I'm going to be having a Halloween party. Would you like to come?" Of course, I did. I'm a teenage boy. I've just been invited somewhere by cumbling tea. Oh, I'm there. But of course, these things being as they always are, there are like 8 people there.
Would it be 9 if I was invited?
Are you correct?
Only Cleaver would take offence about something 29 years ago.
And the party they had like an extension in their house, and the party was sort of going on in the extension. And it had started at 7. And, we were told, even though they were 15 at that time, not quite at that age of, I don't know, other youths at 15, maybe slightly more adventurous and what have you. But so we were told, on getting there for 7, like this is going to go on till 10. Fine. And then round about 9:30, I know that I definitely remember saying, I want to watch Ghostwatch. Yes. And somebody else must have piped up, we should put Ghostwatch on. But, there you go. So, subconscious there. And so we put it on, and I just remember thinking straight away, this is really good. I'm enjoying this. Now, what I've tried to dig back through my mind for is, now, as John has mentioned already, it was on the front of the Radio Times.
It was.
And, so it was flagged up that I'm pretty sure I knew it wasn't real.
Yes.
But at the same time, I was absolutely on board with it. And I've made a note of it in my notes for tonight. The point at which sort of like the party ended and I ran home to watch it because I was like, this is so good. But of course it's like, oh my God. So all I can remember is I was quite spooked for the 5 minutes running home. It was like, of course, it's October. It's a dark, wintry night. I'm just thinking, ooh,
what's happening to Sarah Green?
Exactly.
So it started at 9:30.
I was 9. Yes. Because
the other reason, 11.
And it was Match of the Day immediately followed. And I wanted to watch Match of the Day. Right? So, and I had as Ross will tell you, I had a TV in my bedroom. So I've sprinted home, run straight upstairs and got the telly on to watch the conclusion of Ghostwatch. And once again, I know by that age, I would have been smart enough to be aware that it wasn't real, especially seeing that, as the credits run at the end, it says writer. And, even says, the ghost, Stephen Furore. So I remember thinking, what an unusual surname he had. or whatever. And I was like, oh, right. So, but at the same time, feeling massively discombobulated because of that ending.
Yes.
I don't think I'd seen anything that had ever ended like that.
No.
Like,
the ending,
what have I just seen?
I think, doesn't it?
And this is what I was saying to it. I was telling my students about it a little while back and saying to them all, like, oh, you crazy, these guys, this is before the internet, before people having phones. So you were just kind of sat there going, what just happened? Watch? Yeah. And you had to wait 2 days before, or a day, you had to get through Sunday and then go into school on Monday and go, did anybody else see this?
Yeah.
And then because it was then never repeated, and, I'm sure we'll touch on it in a bit, but that whole thing of the urban mythery around it sprung up really, really
it's
quick.
All over the papers, wasn't it?
It was.
It wouldn't and couldn't exist in this way now.
No.
Because it would be pulled to pieces on Twitter and no one watches TV live anymore.
True.
So it's the kind of thing that you felt like lots of people... It's weird when you think about TV in that way, because you think lots of people are experiencing this at the same time as me, but you don't know they're there, do you?
No.
Yeah.
Whereas now you just think, oh, TV's just.
Although I got to say that
there's a kind of miasma now, doesn't it? That it's all just there, available, rather than something is
all
on
the time.
And that's the only chance you've got to watch it before it just
this is the
finishes.
event.
Yeah. Which I really miss that kind of atmosphere of TV.
Although I got to say, the Inside Number 9 Halloween special.
Yes.
Where that one,
I was going to say that's the closest we've come to it.
That's the closest. Yeah.
When it looked like it went wrong, I was like, I really thought it had gone wrong, and I was I turned it off, and then someone WhatsApped me to say something. It's continuing.
Part of the show.
Yeah. And I had to put it back on again. So
and the amazingness of them doing that thing of them tweeting, "Are we on TV?" and then it coming up live, and Mark Gatiss responding, "Oh, something's up," and so him joining in on it all. That was brilliant.
I think that's the only thing since which has been
come close to
it. Yeah. Well, should we talk?
Let's go through it.
There's a lot to go through, isn't there?
There is. Because it starts off, I put amazingly with the whole kind of, they show you the BBC outside broadcast team assembling the equipment with a man who I put looks a lot like Sid Little from Little and Large.
And you see the Clive James on TV wall, which is which they're watching stuff on, which is there's so much gap between the televisions. It's hard, you can hardly make out what's going on.
I have written OB idea, Parky gravitas. I think Parky holds it all together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was saying to Beck that the non-actors were the best actors in it.
They're like by far.
Sarah Green and Parky were brilliant.
Yes.
It was so good.
Yeah, I will go into the people that I didn't enjoy so much shortly, but I do think it wouldn't have worked without Parkinson, because he was just Parkinson.
I want to know. I would love to know how
he got involved,
how they got involved, and how they knew that he could act.
Yeah. Because he's just playing himself as Michael Parkinson, which must be really quite hard to do.
Oh, and I just love how dismissive and rude he was to
it's Parky. Professional Yorkshireman.
So then, so the phone number you ring, I think, is the phone number for going live.
It was.
That's exactly what I thought.
811
What was it, guy? It was definitely going live, but was it also live and kicking probably as well? I would
the
say,
old going live number?
Yeah, 081 81 811, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
What's it like? There was a song.
So,
and I'm going to say also in the titles when they had the family and there was a bright light and they all just did that. It was very extra-esque. It was like the beginning of Extra, wasn't it?
Don't bring back Extra, for God's sake.
Yeah.
So I straight away, my main issue straight away with this kind of studio setup is that it basically made me think of Knowing Me, Knowing You with Alan Partridge. And I really struggled for the first half an hour to get the whole setup feels...
The set design,
The set design, the kind of atmosphere of it, the 4:3 ratio, all of it feels like Alan Partridge.
Yeah.
Parkinson feels a bit like Alan Partridge.
Mike Smith.
So you're kind of watching something which you're trying to dismiss Memories of Something, which came after this.
Yeah, parody in it. Yeah.
Totally separate to it, isn't it? But it was. I was just thinking, oh my God. And then I was watching it, and you've kind of answered this in the intro now, James. How I was trying to work out whether it was all done live and then put together, or if the external shots were done in one bit and then the studio people reacted to them. So which way did you say it was done again?
They filmed the stuff at the house before, and then they piped that into the studio.
Yes,
and I think that worked really well, didn't it?
It does work really well. There's like maybe 2 times that you think there's a bit of a delay where you think, what's meant to be happening there?
But I think that it kind of, because of the format, it was kind of like that as well.
And there was
some really good bits, I think, with particularly Mike Smith and Parkinson, where, it just, I think it worked really well because they did that kind of television anyway.
Yes.
The way they was reacting when there was a slight delay, or they was waiting for people to talk to them and stuff like that, or they're sort of like looking off camera and stuff.
Yeah.
It just felt it added to that realism of it. Realism.
And I think that's why it works, because you've got these familiar BBC presenting faces, so you don't really question what they're doing because we already know them.
It'd be interesting if, like, Americans or people who don't know them, if it had the same impact.
Yeah. I mean, you can't overstate how famous all of these people were at this point, were you? They were
probably should explain that Michael Parkinson was like a chat show host. Yeah. Mike Smith, I was trying to. He was like a
Radio 1 DJ.
Radio 1 DJ. Interesting. I read that he signed. He wouldn't sign a thing to say that any of his episodes of Top of the Pops could be repeated. So you will never see a Mike Smith presented Top of the Pops on BBC 4.
Yeah, or a Jimmy Savile one for different reasons.
Have I said that? But if you go onto the Children in Need website and look at the Road to Amarillo video, he's fucking still there. He's still in it.
No. It's weird that there's an overlap, isn't there? Like, when was Amarillo? Like 2007 or something?
Something like that. I can remember being at a festival with Tony Christie and people were just shouting, "Shut the fuck up and play Amarillo."
Where's Jimmy Savile?
Where's Sweet? The reason I was looking at that because one of my kids was saying, "What is a bungle?" And I had to like look up bungle, and that was the clip that came up.
So we should set our scene, really, shouldn't we? We've got a kind of suburban British street, which has got an outside broadcast kind of setup. So big arc lights, vans, doing a kind of outside broadcast from inside a suburban semi.
And it was a real house as well. I think we should add
it looks really legit. Yeah, I was watching it. I was like, this is very 90s.
It's hard to tell if it is a set or if it is a real house, but I think it all feels like
a real house. Yeah,
it does feel like a real house, doesn't it? Because it's very cramped. And then we've got Parky and the other people presenting, anchoring from this bespoke studio, which features some very large studio, but with some very dodgy kind of set design choices. For
the picture of the kids in their school uniform, really big, weird. And like this, and a framed picture of like a shrouded spook over a fake fireplace,
which does feel very Alan Partridge's A Christmas Special.
It does,
the one when he's waiting for Roger Moore to turn up. That's what it reminded me of. So you got then
really rings them up.
But you see, they show some footage from a researcher's film of some stuff going on in one of the kids' bedrooms, and the kids' bedroom is very much based on the bedroom from all the photographs of the Enfield Poltergeist.
With David Soul being updated for Jason Donovan. So the one thing that kind of took me out of it a bit is the lady who's the kind of parapsychologist, Lynn. The thing that is the one they spell Lynn. Lynn, but it's spelled Lin. I thought I've never known a female Lynn spell Lin.
No, unless they're Chinese.
Anyway, I guess.
And then I thought, I'll go on to Doctor Who called something Lynn, and I think it's Lin. Yeah.
And I went and had a look, because I thought, she's been in so much stuff, and she is. She's a proper TV veteran. You know, she's been in Holby City and things like that. And she was actually in the TV series Teachers on Channel 4 and things such as that. However, the two credits that leapt out at me, number one, her first acting credit was in Never the Twain.
Oh,
magnificent. Exactly. And she also appeared in an episode of Pie in the Sky.
Oh, amazing.
Monty!
TV's Richard Griffith.
I never understood why it was called Pie in the Sky. Was his name Pie? Was he called
Chef Ross?
He was a chef.
He was a chef.
But did he have the name? Was his surname Pie?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Mr. Pie. Chef Pie. So Sarah Green does a bit of a tour of the situation, doesn't she? So she goes through, talks about the inside of the house, shows you around what the OB setup is, and then you see she talks to a guy who doesn't really reappear then, who really badly fluffs his lines at every opportunity.
Yeah, but it felt real, though. It
did feel real, but it's a bit like he'd forgotten what he was there for and what he was saying.
He was basically setting up the night vision camera, wasn't he?
Yes.
Which I thought was a bit weird and a bit unnecessary, but you don't really... you don't see much of it, do you, really?
No, he's meant to be the partner of the scientist in the studio.
Oh, is he?
So they're doing the research together.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Okay.
Right,
well,
okay.
My notes for it was I've written science fan. They show you like they're big science fan.
Yeah.
And what I put is that for me, this kind of set the template for a lot of like the pseudo-science nonsense that you come to see on like Most Haunted and our good friend Zach Bagans.
Yeah.
You know, the whole kind of, we've got this scientific equipment, which of course isn't scientific in any way, shape or form.
No, in Ghost Adventures, they've got Nerve, which is what they call the nerve center. So they're like, get back to Nerve. And then it will be someone just watching a monitor, like eating a burger or something.
Those boxes. What do these things do?
I love the boxes.
Oh, did you hear that? He just said they were a murderer. Sorry.
He said socks or something. Socks. Murderer. He's a murderer.
Get out of here. Etc.
Zach strangling himself.
My favourite.
And also, I put that the other thing that I've put is, and I've just written odd and underlined it, is that when Sarah Green introduces her crew, the cameraman and the sound man, she goes out of her way to say who they look like.
That's very weird. The lookalikes
really odd.
Adrian Edmondson, but then he does it. Then he does like a Rick Mel line when he's doing the
and Mike Gatting, the cricketer.
Mike Gatting as well for the teenagers.
The writing there. That's the only bit where I think the writing is a bit like, this is really weird and pointless. Like, why is that happening? So then we go through a process where we find out that the viewers are able to ring in, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which I like. I still like the conceit where they have to have them lift up receivers to listen to the phone. Even though
Parky's really like, pick up the phone, doctor. He's like really aggressive. It's like on when they used to be on Go Live, they used to have to pull the aerial out.
The aerial out of the phone
to talk to 5 Star.
What you say?
Okay, Elliot, what's your question?
I'd like to ask 5 Star where they're so fucking crap. They're fucking.
Thanks very much, Elliot. Nice to hear from you. I'm sure Tammy would have made a lot more sense. Let's move on to line 3. Have you got a sensible question?
So that made me laugh. And then a woman rings up and says she can see a figure in the bedroom, doesn't she? And they're like, we'll see if we can roll back and find that footage. And then I've written shoulder pads. Sarah Green had a T-shirt on, and the T-shirt had shoulder pads. And I really don't remember T-shirts with shoulder pads. I remember jackets. I remember jumpers.
Yes. James had 2 older sisters, so
I've got 2 older sisters, and I can tell you, I have
a big thing.
That was an item of clothing that was in our house, not just mine.
Shoulder pads and T-shirt.
So I've also put the one bit is that as Sarah Green's sort of showing you around, it cuts back to Parky, and I put he's delighted by suburbia. It's like. He looks thrilled.
The cutaways at that point are really weird because he's beaming at just like suburban houses and like It's just bizarre.
That is weird.
But we got Craig Charles as well. Craig Charles of Red Dwarf fame, who stinking fag, stinking Craig Charles. He just looks like he stinks. When we
he's not. I've got to point out that at this point he's not sat in the back of a taxi, addicted to crack cocaine and looking at
masturbating,
high-end Eastern European pornography.
When me and James went to a convention, which had the headline that they had the whole crew of Red Dwarf, the whole time Craig Charles was standing behind a pillar, just like sucking on a vape, just like, because he had to like get as much nicotine into his systems before he went on stage
to face the public. Peter, if you were going to greet Red Dwarf fans, you'd have to do the same thing, to be honest, wouldn't you?
Very true.
And then I had to watch him and the Red Dwarf panel the whole time, where someone dressed as Captain Jack had his hand down someone's pants in the seat in front of me.
Yes.
On
yeah. I can concur. This is Nottingham, John. It was a 1-day convention,
and it featured place, isn't it?
Right. It featured people from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
People from so there's like a big Game of Thrones bit.
Doctor Who.
People from Doctor Who. So there's a lot of Who people. And then people from Red Dwarf.
And I asked David Warner a question about Time Bandits, and he got shitty because he was on a Doctor Who panel. He goes, these people want to talk about Doctor Who. They don't want to talk about Time Bandits, do you? And everyone's going, yeah.
But yes, Ross is quite right.
His head cut off by a sheet of glass in...
we should have now.
Yeah, would now.
Yeah, but again, he would have dismissed it out of hand, wouldn't he? Because it's all about Doctor Who. Yeah. But Ross is correct. As we were sat there, and Ross and I made eye contact about it, there was a guy dressed as Captain Jack, and literally kind of getting, as they say in swimming pools, heavy petting. Heavy petting was going. It was like, now's not the time or place.
Listen to Chris Barry.
TV's Gordon Brittis. Anyway, on that bombshell.
Yeah.
So I've written that Craig Charles is awful, and I think he's very much the weakest link in this whole thing.
He's quite superfluous as well. They don't really need him.
Yeah, he's very superfluous, and in a real program, he wouldn't be there. It would be someone like Simon Mayo, or like
that's what I thought. Tony Robinson. I don't know why.
Yeah, Tony. It'd be someone with like, we know that Craig Charles is known for TV's Red Dwarf, whereas the others are
at that point definitely.
Yeah, whereas the others are TV presenters.
Or that thing where it was like Fesp, build me a Borg.
Or
it was like a virtual reality TV program.
Yes.
But
on BBC Two.
Yeah. It was
on the Death 2 bracket, John.
What is it?
It was like a virtual reality game show where people had to like...
With Craig Charles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
why did you do him in a Scottish accent?
No, that was meant to be that was meant to be his accent.
That was supposed to be his Scouse accent.
Build me a Borg.
Build me a Borg.
That's what it sounded like. And I've never... What was the programme called?
Got no idea.
Wait, I'm trying to find it now for us.
We need to find out, because
did he also do Robot Wars as well?
Yes.
He used to do this.
Oh, horrible.
Well, because he was the guy who he started off Awooga, didn't he? And then Fashion who nicked it for Gladiators.
No, that is a 90s reference, isn't it?
Welcome to the cyber zone. Behind this fence is a virtual world controlled by one colossal computer bank. Great Britain just got lucky. Let's hit it! Awooga! Awooga! Yes. This is a portal to a landscape built of pure data. A world of puzzles and perils and pain. A world you can visit only as a cyborg. Or Borg, as we cyber dudes like to call them. This world is created for us by Thesp, the sentient center of the hypercomputer. Tonight, 4 brave data duelists will make their run into the zone, competing with each other and also with Thesp in whatever form he cares to take. Thesp! Will you come online, please?
What's amazing is on IMDb. Yeah. On IMDb, it just says Craig Charles. Craig Charles.
Known for being
originator of Awooga.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of him, and I'm very unhappy to find out that he's replaced Sean Keaveney on Six Music now in the afternoon.
I agree wholeheartedly and 100%.
But he's the last person I want to hear on a weekday afternoon. He's like, he's a weekend person. He's like a 10 o'clock on a Saturday person playing reggae, isn't he? Or like,
absolutely.
I don't want to hear him talking about Elbow on a Tuesday at 3 o'clock. It's just weird.
It's not right.
So anyway, I've quoted some lines here, and I can't remember where they're from. So we have a brief reprise of events inside the house. Then we first hear about Mr. Pipes for the first time.
Yes.
And then all I've done is quote, saw him through the crack.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what does that mean?
So the younger girl said that she saw Pipes through the crack in the under the stairs cupboard.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Yeah. And she drew a picture of him, and it was just like someone in a dress with like blood coming from his eyes.
So what she's drawn looks quite Lovecraftian to me at that point. It looks more like a man with an octopus head than what they describe later, doesn't it? So it does make me think, is it like a separate entity?
Hello, your name is?
I don't want to give my name, but I think I have some information for you about the history of the house.
Well, what do you know about it?
Well, we've been into all that. We've got the deeds and searches going back to the year it was built, and the history of the site as far as the Doomsday Book and the ley lines.
Do you know Mr. and Mrs. Sellers?
Yes, they're on our list of tenants. They lived there in the 60s, I think.
Did you know they sublet a room?
No, I didn't know that.
Being illegal, it wouldn't be on the official records. The lodger was their nephew, Raymond Tunstall.
How do you know him? Why are you calling, sir?
I worked as a social worker when he came out of psychiatric hospital. He had several convictions for molestation, aggravated abuse, abduction of minors. He should never have been let anywhere near any community. He was a very disturbed man, in my opinion.
In what way?
From the time he moved to Foxhill Drive, he developed paranoid fantasies. He used to tell me there was a woman on the inside of his body, taking over his thoughts and actions, making him do things he didn't want to do. He started to wear dresses. The delusions got so bad, there was only one way to escape them. He took his own life. That's why I called. When I was sitting here watching the TV and...
Hello? Are you still there? If you are, please go on. Hello?
Tunstall hanged himself. He tied wire around his neck to a lathe and switched it on. Did it where he kept his tools, under the stairs. His aunt and uncle were on holiday. It was 12 days before anybody found him. They heard the cats screaming. He had about a dozen cats. The cats were locked in, of course. And of course, 12 days, they got hungry. They got to work on his face.
Mr... I'm sure what you say is true. We've no reason to disbelieve you, but in order to substantiate...
He's gone, Doctor. He's hung up. Sorry, but that's the way it is. He's gone.
Okay, so listeners, we just had the ghost is in the machine. We've had our first... well, my monitor's completely stopped working, so I can't use my monitor. I'm just on my laptop now. It's all just like...
Is this true?
Yeah, it's all like buzzing and all over the place. It might be
buzzing.
And we lost probably about 5 minutes of recording. So we got to... I was saying that the bit which really creeped me out, which I thought was added to this, was when they went to the wasteland, and they were also they had a couple of phone-ins. So they had the phone-in where someone was describing that someone was spitting all over their mackerel, so they couldn't eat for their breakfast. And then they got someone spat all over their shoes, and then someone wiped shit all over the walls. So there's that, and then they went to the wasteland, and they were telling about children being abducted and molested, and 5-year-old children knifing each other in the park, and the Labradors being slit open and dog fetuses put all over the ground, and it's just like none of this stuff would be on television. They would never.
Absolutely not.
We should point out at this point, not only would none of this be on a BBC entertainment program, but we have jumped forward quite a lot by mentioning that at this point.
Yes, I know.
Why were we mentioning that?
I can't remember. I think we was talking about. I don't know. Yeah,
the narrative is quite hard to break. James and I were just saying this. The narrative in itself is quite hard to break down, isn't it? Because it doesn't work like a normal 3-part narrative or whatever, beginning, middle, and end. It's kind of one kind of stream of consciousness, isn't it? Did we have the mention? Did we retain the mention of me saying about Mr. Pipes being
in the
quite a Lovecraftian looking monster that what the child drew?
No. So we talked about her looking through the crack, and then she went away and showed a drawing that she did of him, and you said it looked like some kind of Lovecraftian squid thing. And but it's a very unique sort of monster design, isn't it? If you look at it, it's basically a bald man with his eyes gouged out, wearing a black Victorian dress, which is buttoned right up, which is it's great. I just love it. But I was just something else, because we've got all of this backstory, and I was saying before we lost the recording of it, this was meant to be a 6-part drama where they were going to have 6 episodes with building up all this mythology. And the last episode was going to be a live recording where it all kicked off. And he said he wanted to be like Quatermass and the pit, where everything on the last episode just went mental. And they said,
and like the first episode of Doctor Who and the Demons.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I can't remember the name of the mound is. What was it? Was it Devil's Mound or something?
It is the Devil's. The Devil's. I can't remember either. I need to watch it now, though. That's a good story. But that is basically a rip-off of Quatermass, isn't it?
Yes.
That Doctor Who story.
But however, he was told that I think your idea for the last episode is good. Let's just do that. Let's cut to the chase. But it feels to me like all of that backstory, which you would have had over 5 weeks previously, was just all shoved into this, and it made it feel really real, and that there was loads of stuff behind this, which is really good. There was at some point someone mentions this baby farmer, which I've looked in, which is based on a true account where there was baby farming was in the Victorian times, where if you was having a illegitimate child, you would often go to a baby farmer, have the child there, and then give it to someone who you would pay to adopt that child. Then what normally would happen, they would neglect them, and then they probably die. Yeah. Where there was this particular woman, I can't remember who it was, who they reckon she was the most notorious serial killer. They reckon she killed over 400 babies.
Oh, God.
She was one of the reasons they set up the National Society for Protection of Cruelty to Children. And they only found her because she started putting the babies into bags and chucking them into the Thames, and they used one of the first examples of using microscopes to look at the tapes they had wrapped around her neck and some of the paperwork they had in the bag, because she was just pawning all the baby's clothes, and she was just basically killing all these children. Ugh. And that is why you see Pipes in that black dress, because he's possessed by one of the
by her,
yes. Which is it was.
But does he not look like he's got an octopus for a head, or have I dreamt that?
No, that's the drawing. That's the drawing.
That's the drawing.
Because there's at one point where they talk about something there being an ancient thing, don't they?
Yes.
Yes.
She said it could be something older.
So I wondered if it was, so I wondered if what she's drawing at that point, is something to do with that, like an ancient evil which is within that area.
Yeah, because the whole idea, I think, is that this being just keeps possessing someone, then that possesses someone else, and that possesses someone else, and it just goes on.
And is it now Michael Parkinson?
Yes,
it is Parky.
Yeah.
Well, just jumping back a little bit over bits we've missed. That's all right.
Yeah.
But there was one of the bits. It's just weird. Is that they do like a fake out scare where they go, "Oh, can you hear that? Can you hear that?" And then all of a sudden, Craig Charles leaps from the cupboard wearing a fake mask. But what the mad thing is there, and it's that whole kind of suspension of disbelief thing is, right, he does that to 2 young girls who have been really horribly traumatized over the last couple of weeks. And seconds later, they're all going, they're laughing their heads off. It's like, I don't think they'd laugh.
One of my earliest memories, and I must have been 4 or 5.
Was Craig Charles?
No, it was being in the kitchen in one of my old houses, and someone banging on the back door. My mum opening it, and there was someone in a boiler suit with an old man mask on with long hair.
Oh, God.
My mum screaming, slamming the door, holding me against the door. As my dad just thought that'd be funny to do. It gave me sort of vibes of that little scare.
Yeah. Why not?
And he was like banging on the windows as well. And going, it's me, Sylv, it's me.
No, and your mum really traumatized after watching Deathline.
Yeah.
Did you tell me that she was really? Oh my God! Right, and then the other couple of bits is that when there was some lovely kind of like the 90s, just seeing like the old Coke bottle design and things like that.
I think it was an Amiga computer they had as well in the lounge.
Well, I thought it was a Commodore 64, mate. Or do you think it was an Amiga?
I think it was an Amiga. But one bit when they show all the writing in the exercise book. Okay.
Yes.
Did you notice one of our listeners, Simon Love, he got a screen grab of that. If you look at it, one of them is a picture of a massive cock spurting blood, which you see for a split second.
Yeah, I noticed that she'd drawn a cock
with blood spurting out of it.
I didn't see the blood.
I noticed that. Is this on Twitter?
Yeah, but look on our direct messages.
Yes, I need to have a look on Twitter.
Deranged. And of course, as the teacher, I would just be like, well, I'm pleased they've actually done some work. I'm like, well done.
Creativity.
Well, I was thinking that the art department, they had to fill that book with legitimate looking exercises.
It looks legit. Yeah, it does look good.
Yeah. Can we have that and then just draw some cocks in it, please? Yeah.
Right at the end, just some mad writing.
Yeah.
I think if we're following the narrative now, they bring out the tape, which is like a reel-to-reel tape recorder in the studio, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is when you first hear the voice, which Parky says is bizarre and chilling. And he says it in that way. And at this point, I've written, we're 30 minutes in, and it's a bit slow, because this is the point really now where the first horrific thing starts to happen, isn't it? Which is where you first hear the spooky voice.
Yes.
Which is legitimately quite scary.
Yeah, and I think that is based on the Enfield Poltergeist. Because the girl there with the massive teeth. Good.
I wondered what you were going to say then, Steve.
Good. I can't remember what her name was. Helen? I can't remember. But basically,
you do it.
She can do like these voices. She's just like, what's the uterus? I died in that chair. Fuck off. That kind of stuff. But she could do that with through her massive teeth. But that was the most terrifying thing I'd ever heard in my life. I can remember sitting on the sofa watching a documentary on this, like clamping my hands over my ears, sweating, not wanting to hear her doing that voice.
And what was this? While on the screen there would be a massive close-up of just the wheels of the tape recorder.
Exactly, yeah.
Always. Or like a graphic equalizer of the voice.
Yeah. With what's his name? Bernard Moss or whatever his name is. It's Janet. Her name was Janet.
Janet. Hold on. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Margaret's sleeping, I'm talking. Margaret's sleeping, I'm talking. Margaret's sleeping, I'm talking. Wow. Well, I was asleep. Mr. Clark fell asleep and he's talking. Sound. Hello. Robert Food talking. Janet, Margaret and Betty all asleep and he's talking. I will. Yeah. Hello, Mr. Playfair. Margaret's asleep and I'm talking. I'm Ryan.
I've put that there's some really good, round about this point, John's quite right. And weirdly enough, when I was saying earlier, it was at 27 minutes that I'd left the party. Mm-hmm. So from like 27, rewatching it properly, I was like, oh, okay, now this is the bit that I didn't see. But what I have put is that number one, some of the things that do work is that they introduce the whole divorce subtext. And suggest that, it's a broken home. So, or maybe some of that, and maybe the kids have been disturbed by that. I've also put that she says, one of my favorite bits is that they described the basement as her husband's glory hole.
Oh, yes. They keep saying glory hole over and over.
And I feel that I should point this out is that there is an absolute schism in British society between people who understand that what a glory hole is in one way, and people who understand it as a small area where things are stored.
Yes.
Because at school one day, I can't even remember what it is that we were doing, but I and another colleague had to go down to the front, reception area and said, I think something needed fixing in one of the classrooms. And we said to the really nice lady who works on reception, we said, is there any chance you can get Jim, who's our caretaker, to come down and take a look at this? And she said, oh yeah, I think so. I think he's got some tools for that. You'll have to go and have a bit of a rummage round his glory hole. And then I made eye contact with my colleague, who also immediately shot a look back at me. And we both started laughing. And she went, well, what's funny about that? And we had to explain to her what glory hole was.
She was like, showing her?
Really? No.
A piece of A4 of a hole.
But then she came back a few days later. She came back and she went, do you know what? I started thinking, when did I first hear that phrase? And she said to us, I think my parents used to have a glory hole. Just to say this to me cracked me up even more. So just stop. Just leave it now. Anyway, sorry, I had to get the glory hole thing off my chest. There you go.
The glory hole is the cupboard under the stairs, which feels like didn't have enough room to A, be able to develop your photographs in there.
Yeah.
B, for Pipes to have a lathe, because apparently he killed himself by attaching a rope to his lathe and making it tighten around his neck, and then lock himself in there with 14 cats.
Yeah,
that doesn't look big enough.
I just sensed it was a basement.
That's it carried on. But you don't get basements in those type of houses, do you?
No, you're quite right. That's the only thing that seemed a little bit weird. And also, I put down that she's quite right, that the wife says, there was the horrible smell of cabbage. And I did think that is right. That is one of the most horrendous things.
Was that when she said he was breathing on her face?
Yes. Right. There was that. And then also she said, and then they say to her, okay, so what happened? And she goes to the council to try and get it looked at and things like that. And then they said, and they kind of try and brush her off. And then we find out, they said, and then the local press got involved. And I've written down local press abysmal. Correct. As a man who's had tanglings with local press, I can confirm, and I'll name him and shame him, Bournemouth Daily Echo, awful, factually incorrect, clickbait, the worst kind of, can we do our journalism via Facebook you can possibly imagine. And so, yes, there was a great degree for me watching it now as an adult. I was like, there's more verisimilitude there. Yeah. That is right. Local press, totally.
Because didn't the press say that I believe in the devil?
In the devil.
Yeah,
correct.
I never said that.
She said, I never said that. Yeah. And I was like, that is factually right.
Yeah, but there's so much in this. There's so much in this. There's so much background.
It's only an hour and a half.
They put so much stuff in it.
And just think, if you would have taken out the Craig Charles stuff as well, you could have made it even tighter. There's so much weird flannel in there as well.
But they said that when they catch one of the kids faking the banging on the pipes, don't they?
In a bit, towards the end.
That's
more on that in a second.
Keep jumping.
Sorry.
And also, we are introduced during this section to the parapsychologist. Her book on them is called, and it's a dreadful title, Angels of the Odd.
Yes.
that would have been our podcast title if we knew about it.
We've done this one first. Yeah, Angels of the Odd, and the cover is so clearly supposed to be the Enfield Poltergeist.
Yes,
it is.
This house is haunted, wasn't it? That was
by Guy Playfair. Yes.
Guy Playfair.
Playfair.
Yeah.
He was the second of the
amazing
parapsychologists they called in on the Enfield poltergeist.
Yeah, and
because they were like,
"Can we go to Enfield?"
Yeah,
definitely. We should go to Enfield, shouldn't we? And we should go to Pontefract as well, where the Black Monk House is.
Yeah,
not
brilliant.
Not someone called Monkhouse who's black.
Bob Monkhouse blacks up.
Bob Monkhouse, an illegitimate mixed race child.
The actual Black Monk house.
Yes, but the Pontefract monk, he did a lot of pools of water on the floor, and they have a circular pool of water which they try sucking up with a lens,
a pipette,
yeah.
At this point, we're introduced to the American skeptic.
Yes,
who is a bit pointless, isn't he?
He's James Randi.
Well, I thought, and I've written, I feel that this bit's really good. I thought this is excellent because they argue this, and with my philosophy hat on, this is part of the large philosophical argument, is that you can say that the scientific method needs to be observed, but there are certain things in human experience which resists quantification. So she says, how can you analyze love, and how can you kind of understand the feelings of art, and that is one of the big ongoing questions in philosophy. So I've got to say, hats off to them. That bit was quite good. I quite like that.
So yes.
I thought that was like, that's good writing there.
They showed he was in America by him having a picture of New York next to him.
Of New York behind him.
I think I was more put off by that and the fig tree behind him than the actual things he was saying. Because that did look a bit lazy, didn't it?
Yes.
And then we have the part where Sarah Green tells a ghost story about some Indian concubines.
But I think that's a true, because I've heard her tell that story elsewhere.
I've just written the word, I just wrote, this was pointless. And this gave nothing to the, and they could have got rid of this scene.
I'm sure I've heard her retell that story elsewhere as a true story she's done before.
I thought that would become something which is kind of referenced again somehow. Proving that what Sarah Green had experienced was somehow linked to this house. But no, they just forgot it, which I thought was quite weird.
Yeah. Cutting back to Smithy, though, didn't he? Having a little...
He looked worried and then exasperated and then happy all at the same time.
The exact feelings he had as he crashes helicopter into the ground.
God, cut that out. So then we've got the story with the pixelated face where the man has got saliva on his mackerel, which, I mean, no one's, unless that's a metaphor, no one's going to be happy about that, are they?
Of course we're going to eat it.
Then I've said Craig Charles awful again.
Yes.
Because I just think at every point he really kind of muffs up
his clothes
the atmosphere.
Are awful.
He's just too.
I wonder if he's still got that
vivacious.
jacket.
Yeah. So then he goes to talk to Yvonne, and this is the bit where Yvonne starts talking about the stuff going on in the park with the dead fetus, the dead Labrador fetuses. Feti, I don't know if you have a plural for fetuses. I've written down Judy Welland. I don't know why I've written down Judy Welland. Is she one of the people that's murdered or haunted, or
I'm not sure.
And then I feel like the way the kind of the horror is introduced now, where Craig Charles walks back down the street with a spiritualist guy.
That's
and
right.
As he talks, I think it turns from being the kind of preamble into the horrific part, doesn't it? Because what he says is all about, there's this horrible entity in there, it's very evil, it's this, it's that, it's the other. And then you go straight in to find that this is now where the puddle is on the floor.
Yeah.
When I saw that puddle at first, I couldn't work out what it was because the quality of what I was watching wasn't very good.
I'm sorry.
Someone said it wasn't. Someone said, was it a dirty old tomcat? And I thought they meant that the tomcat had been sat on the floor.
And peed on the floor.
But I just thought it had left a dirty mark because it just looked like dirt on my screen, not like
circle.
water.
Just a dirty circle, yeah.
So it was an actual puddle.
It was a puddle,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the line, I put down the line, smell the hanky. At some point there, smell the hanky. Smell the glove.
The light fitting with a hanky. Why would you do that? Who does that? Who wipes? Is that a scientific method for touching light fittings?
And then from there, you're absolutely right. I've put down, because this gets us to the 55-minute mark. And then we get the classic horror tropes. I've put that this is the bit where she goes downstairs.
Yeah.
And then there's the, and then, like the cat runs up to the, and then it fakes out. And then as she stands up, you see pipes reflected in it. And I was like, that is absolutely tick box classic horror, isn't it?
It is
the fake out, followed by the actual horror payoff, which is missed.
That's
by
when
our
he's
protagonist.
in the patio door, isn't it? He's reflected. So he's reflected behind them. Yeah. Then they cut back and he's obviously gone. It's very cleverly done. What I want to bring up just before that is the man that we hear from Neath.
Yes. His pickle sandwich.
It's really made me laugh because he's called Kevin Tripp from Neath. And he's got a cheese and pickle sandwich. It's got a mind of its bloody own. It's really made me laugh. Which is a very... But I think that what's his name? The writer of this, Mr. Volk. Is he not from Wales?
I'm not sure.
I think he's from Ponty, which made me laugh that he's blocked me on Twitter because of the changing rooms debacle.
Well, I think this might be a time to tell us.
This might be the time to tell the story, John. Come on, I don't know this story.
Is this when you want me to tell the story?
Yes, I think so.
I'll tell the story. I'm just looking up Stephen Volk now to make sure that I am right in saying he's from Pontypridd. So if you're listening, Stephen, you blocked me on Twitter and I live in your hometown. And how does that make you feel? I'm just waiting for it to go through to... he looks quite a cheerful man. Yeah, he's actually from Pontypridd. Yeah. So he's probably got a close personal experience of
pickle sandwiches.
And pickle sandwiches. So yeah, basically the story, the beef between Stephen Volk and I is that I followed Stephen Volk on Twitter. And I thought, I'm going to follow him. He's an interesting guy. He's written some interesting stuff. I think he wrote some films for Ken Russell as well, besides this. He retweeted what I think was his wife slagging off the revived Changing Rooms, which is recently revived on Channel 4 with the lady whose name I can't remember, Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen.
She's the lady who does Naked Attraction.
Yes, what's her name, James? I can't remember her name. You know, she was with Sue Thingy for a bit, wasn't she? But they've split up now.
Oh, have they?
We all know what I'm talking about. So anyway, they've brought back that program. Helen and I watched it. It's not as good as the original BBC Changing Rooms, but it's
Anna
still
Richardson.
Which is weird because it used to be Anna Ryder
Richardson.
In the original. So obviously, so he retweeted his wife saying, "Why is this effing shit on? Changing Rooms, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "What?" And I replied and said, "What a funny way to be, to think that everything in culture is aimed just directly at you. Because some people are going to enjoy Changing Rooms, aren't they? Some people are going to think Ghostwatch is a load of shit." He sent me a load of abuse, which I can't remember now what the abuse was, and blocked me. And I took real offence at that, because I just think to get as exasperated as he obviously did over Changing Rooms shows that he's got a bit of a screw loose.
Blimey.
Oh, there we go.
Wow. Yikes.
Yeah.
All ever changing.
Would you guys have a pint with him now, John? Just No, just because of that.
Play the pipes of peace.
No.
No.
I really wouldn't. I'd just say to him, "Look, mate, I love Changing Rooms."
Would you prefer Changing?
Come on, mate. Deal with it.
Would you watch Changing Rooms or Ghostwatch?
I think I'd probably watch Changing Rooms. I'd watch a classic episode of Changing Rooms with Handy Andy.
Yeah.
I'd want Anna Ryder Richardson in it. Probably, she's a very good looking woman. And I'd watch the episode where all the shells fall off the wall.
Yeah,
because that's a bit poltergeisty, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe they never thought of that, did they?
No,
they did.
They could have. This could have been a crossover with that, couldn't it?
Imagine. Now that is a good idea. Changing rooms goes into a house to do up a house, and it's haunted by a poltergeist. That would be an amazing crossover.
Stop.
So, Stephen Volk, if you are listening,
you've missed the opportunity.
This proves that I am better than you. I am greater than you.
Let's get Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen possessed and tearing apart dogs.
It's done.
Maybe he is like
drop the mic.
But he does look like a kind of an Anne Rice type vampire, so we could say that.
Yeah, he does.
It could work.
He does. And he's not aging, is he?
No.
Right, so where are we?
Right, we're up to the point now that Ross mentioned before where we find out that, in fact, that the noise is coming from the eldest daughter is making the pipes noise.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we find out that in response to the divorce, the trauma, and all the rest of it, it's been her. And then, basically, Parky fronts her up.
Yeah.
He goes, let me talk to her.
Let me put her on. Look here, girl. I like the way that whenever he puts the phone down to people, he calls them love. Thanks for calling love. That bit isn't, for me, that bit isn't expanded upon enough.
No, but even though I've seen it about 6 times, I still feel disappointed when that happens. I'm like, I want it to be real. And then,
But it is real.
It's just
is it real?
Oh, no. But I think it's a good twist, and we know in the Enfield Poltergeist she was caught faking it.
Yeah,
and people still
is
really
that true?
Yeah,
that's what happened.
Yeah,
is it?
But people still, but then the people who want to believe said, "Oh yeah, they do this."
She got forced into it.
But again, I feel like this is one of the few points where it feels like that. Maybe this was like that was meant to happen in episode 3 or something, you know.
That's a cliffhanger.
Yeah, but it was good.
Well, and at this point, I thought something that was really weird happens where the mum is obviously overdubbed. Where her dialogue, so she comes in, hugs the daughter. The daughter does the dialogue, but then the mother, I don't know did you watch it with headphones on or did you watch it?
No, just watched it on my laptop.
Yeah. With headphones on, it's really obvious that what the mother is saying, the dialogue is overdubbed, and you can tell as well that the mother isn't actually even speaking. So I don't know if... I don't know, maybe they thought that it wasn't clear there.
There's a strange bit as well, which I thought, they're going to mention this, where they show the younger daughter upstairs in her bedroom, but then they pan across and you see her at the bottom of the stairs looking through the gap in the stairs. And I thought, and I was thinking, I seem to remember that at one point they realised the film is out of sync.
That's later, which is great.
But they don't mention it at that point, and it's a little bit discombobulating. But it's really hard to watch. We did watch it on the TV archive, Internet Archive thing, and it was quite hard to see what was going on. It's such a bad copy of it.
It added to it.
But so at this point, after Parky's fronted her up, we then get the revelation that, maybe it's not the elder daughter who's like the target.
Daughter.
It's the younger one. And then they then start taking other phone calls from people. And I put 1 hour and 3. This is genuinely good. At this point, this is great.
Yeah.
Because someone rings up and goes, "Why are you doing this? Is this right?" And that's good. And then they also have like people going, "Our kids can't stop watching the television."
Yeah.
Which is
and really good, isn't it?
Yeah, and Parky tries to sort of dismiss it. They all want to be in bed. But I like that, the notion that as we find out later on, it's kind of dragging other people into it.
Yeah,
with
a mass seance.
Big tick. Big tick for that bit, right?
This
I like
is the
that
guy
bit.
whose glass table explodes, isn't it?
And there's blood all over the walls. Yeah.
Yes. And then he says, "Just switch your set off, love." The prosaic Yorkshire.
I was about to say, him and Jeff Boycott, isn't it? It's the same
and glass. You kids can't stop watching the TV, just turn your set off. So then the daughter gets covered in scratches at this point.
Yeah, and I think that they act that really well, because having had a child who's slept walk before, and there was a point where she could obviously see something and was freaking out, but she can't see me, and I'm going, who am I? And she's like, I don't know, and you're like, whoa. I felt that was very quite. I haven't seen that spooky kind of thing in real life before. Like what it's like.
What did you do at that point, Cleves?
I just turned all the lights on because I was really scared.
Filled your pants.
Yeah.
Pipe says we've got to stay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then this is when it all starts to kick off then, isn't it? It all goes wrong. And my notes just become quite incoherent at this point because, the last half an hour is quite
frenetic.
Yeah. Considering it was on primetime BBC television, it's admirable how little kind of structure it's got, because it's just a mad sequence of disparate images, isn't it, really?
But you've whipped yourself up into a frenzy at that point, and you're just going with it.
Yeah. And something else I was going to say, actually, that I think is admirable with it, there's no music at any point.
No.
Yes.
So all of the kind of... It's all down to the editing and sound effects and stuff, isn't it? The kind of sense of impending doom that's
and
coming at
the
this
thumping
point.
pipe noise you hear is really good. And apparently they wanted to transmit some really high-pitched sounds beyond people's hearing, but
that's always good.
But there was like laws about what they can do over what they can broadcast and stuff.
Yeah.
So they were really trying as many different techniques as they could just to freak people out.
There's one point where I've written gone to film, and did you? When the picture frame flies off the wall, it looked like it had gone on to film for me. But was that just?
No, I didn't notice
shit
that.
Quality thing I was watching.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I don't know if they'd gone to a different kind of footage.
Well, they were cutting back and forth to the CCTV footage, didn't they?
They did, and it looked a bit like that. It had gone to film, and I didn't know if they were setting up a special effect at that point.
Yeah.
And then we have the cut-in transmission, where it all just goes a bit wrong. Then doesn't it?
And feels real.
Yeah.
For a normal TV audience, they would have felt like, this is what it does look like when live TV breaks down.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mike Smith's getting very concerned about his wife. And then they cut back, and it's
everything's fine.
Yeah. But it's from earlier in the evening, isn't it?
Yes, clever. But it takes a while for that. They realised. First of all, I as I was rewatching it, I was like, do they figure out that do they see the time and that the time's wrong? But it's not. It's the painting that's flown off the picture that's flown off the wall.
Yeah.
In a poltergeist way is back up on the wall. And she's like, that's fallen off the wall. That we're not seeing live. We're not seeing live at all.
Yeah.
And then when they cut to Craig Charles talking to the underused guy, we realised that footage isn't live either.
Yeah, and he can't hear them.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you actually see like ambulances turning up and the police all coming and stuff. But, it's really good.
And that's when she says that the ghost is in the machine, doesn't she? Which is the actual big idea, is that the ghost has somehow managed to get into
the telly.
And control the images that you're seeing, which is a really interesting idea.
And then we go to the heat vision, which probably would have been really like cutting edge
advanced.
At the time.
It was in the same way that earlier on in the show they go, we're going to bring in this advanced piece of technology so you can draw on the screen. It's literally the size of a small car. They wheel it in,
and they would have used that for Match of the Day probably or something.
They would.
In amongst all of this bit, we have a bit of exposition to do with Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, who sublet their room.
Mm-hmm. Someone rings in, don't they? Yeah.
To Raymond
and he says, I don't want to give my name.
Yeah.
Yes, so Raymond Tunstall is Mr. Pipes, isn't he? And that's when we find out
he was a child molester, and
he should never have been released. Which is all great, all amazing classic horror tropes. All that, amazing.
And someone else rings in to say that used to be like a Victorian slum where the baby farm was, and the person was killing all the babies and stuff. But it was the same place. It's
all going off.
Yeah.
And I've put strong stone tape vibes there. It's, like a natural, so that.
Sarah Green is now in heat vision, lights a lighter, and then
lights a lighter, and she can hear the one of the children who is trapped under the stairs, and it's just horrible. She's like, he's touching me. And it's a child molester, and he's touching me, and it's like it's super dark,
horrible and dark. Yeah, and then she goes in there, and then the door slams shut, and she's trapped inside there. That's the bit
in the glory hole.
In the glory hole.
I was just going to say, there's a touch of the Mandela effects about this. The idea of the Mandela.
You're right. Yeah, I just saw the picture you sent of pipes in the window.
Oh, sorry, classic.
Yeah, sorry.
Right. In case people that aren't aware, the Mandela effect is like a false popular memory, as it were. Like, for example, I think this is more common in the States than it is in this country. Like, lots of people believe that Nelson Mandela died in prison.
Oh, really?
And like apparently, for our generation, of course he did. We all remember him coming out, but apparently, so, and it's that whole thing of, a collective memory that turns out not to be true. And I absolutely remember that when we went into school the next week, Ross, that somebody said, do you remember that? Oh, there's that bit where Craig Charles tries to charge into the house. And I went, yeah, during when the police turn up at the end, like Craig Charles tries to charge in and tries to and then he's then
no way of ever knowing because
that's right.
Yeah, you would never.
And then for years I thought that definitely happens, but then apparently it doesn't. When I was watching it, I was like, that doesn't happen at all. Like he runs towards the house, but there's not a Craig Charles action sequence where he's rebuffed
to the rescue.
Yeah, and then as we know, it all starts going horribly wrong. And in a very, very good, somebody shouts, "Clear the studio!" Because all of a sudden there's a ghostly wind that begins.
Yeah. I wasn't quite convinced by the wind.
No. Yeah.
I did like the exploding light bulbs and stuff because that made a bit more sense to me. But Parky said something like, "Whoever heard of wind in a TV studio?" And that kind of spoils the atmosphere slightly.
Well, but there was a great shot there when there was only one camera working, and he kind of walks into frame. And and then
that's the final shot, isn't it?
Yeah, where he said, "Oh, I don't know if the cameras are on anymore. There's an auto cue," and he starts reading what's on the auto cue, and it says something like, "Did you believe Pipes was real?" or something like that, and then.
Then all of a sudden we start getting bits from earlier in the episodes.
Yeah. Then it's like round around the garden. And his voice changes, and then and fee fi fo fum. Crash cut to a picture of Pipe's face for one frame, and then goes to the end.
Oh, does it
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I suppose it's the frame rate I'm watching.
But what I've also put is that Parky, the consummate pro, keeps broadcasting.
Yeah.
Even though he's been sucked into some kind of hell dimension.
Yeah, someone would think the Russians have started the war and then nuclear weapons have stopped him.
This man handled being attacked by Rod Hull and Emu.
Yeah.
Whilst probably trying to interview, I don't know, like Tom Conti at the same time as in 1974. He can handle this.
Yes.
So what do we think? Do we like it?
Oh, fantastic.
It is
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
But I think if it crossed over with Changing Rooms, it would be better.
It would be even better.
I've got to say, watch it again. I've watched this lots of times. Watching it in the house alone tonight creeped me out. I got really creeped out by it. Yeah. This is the only thing we've watched which has actually scared me as an adult. It's still it's still got that power. And I think it's just like there's so many layers into it, and the more you look into it, you think, "Oh, that's such a brilliant idea." There's so many brilliant ideas.
I think the end is stronger than the beginning. The beginning for me was spoiled by me thinking it was basically Alan Partridge.
Yeah.
And it was going to be he was going to shoot the guest. And I can't. And it did make me want to go back and watch some of those Knowing Me, Knowing You Alan Partridges. But what are the scores on the doors?
Well, this is a 5. This is the best thing I've watched. I've given it a 5 out of 5. Love it. So good.
Oh my god, James.
A 3.5.
3.5. Yeah.
Really good. It's so many great memories tied up in it for me. And I also think, as you said, they couldn't do it again now. But at the same time, there's so much, it said, things like the Craig Charles factor and, you know, like the crack, certain bits of it weren't great, but you think, it could have been even better. It could have been even better. And you're right. They try and smash so much mythology into it. You think, if this would have been given a bit more time to breathe. But I said, in terms of sheer innovation, and I really enjoyed rewatching it, but I wouldn't want to watch it over and over again. So 3.5 for me.
John,
what have I given scores? Like where are we? What did I give Deathline?
Let's have a look. Every time I have to look this shit up.
I just want to be thorough.
Yeah, it's a scientific method, isn't it, John?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. So you
and relative to
John gave Deathline. Readers are shouting this out. They all know.
Both readers,
listeners. No, well, it says you gave it a 2, and then
I think I did.
Yeah, and James and I only gave it a 1.
I know, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did I enjoy this more than Deathline? Yes, I suppose I did. I'm going to give this a 3.
Minus points for Stephen Volk, unfairly blocking John.
Well, it still makes it the joint highest scoring thing we've ever watched. Oh no, sorry.
What's the highest?
Stone Tape. Oh no, sorry. No, the Omen was the highest. Omen, Stone Tape, and then it's this.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I loved it. I thought it was absolutely.
I think I probably enjoyed it more than the Omen. I don't know. Yeah, it's difficult to.
You can't compare things. Isn't it?
Yeah, you can't compare, can you? I think you can certainly compare it to the Stone Tape.
Yeah, which is television. It's one of the best. Yeah.
If you've not watched it, you should watch it. Is what I would say to people. It's as a historical document.
But
amazing.
If you was a child of the 90s as well, it's just all of the.
It holds a place. Yeah.
It's authentic. It doesn't look fake. You know. Okay, so something horrific. Does anyone watch anything, read anything, do anything since we last spoke? Which you want to talk about?
No, I haven't seen anything spooky.
Well, I have, but it's things I've probably spoken about before, so there's probably not much point.
Okay. Well, I got 2 things. I've watched a film called No One Gets Out Alive on Netflix, which is
awful. The Doors.
Awful title. Really good film about a Mexican illegal immigrant. Gets into America, has to stay in a horrible old house because it's the only place that they would let her stay. They take her money off of her, so she's sort of trapped there. And then you realise that the person who owned the house was like an archaeologist and got this old stone, like Inca or Aztec box in the house, which really good. And it's got one of the best. It's written. It's based on a book by the same guy who wrote The Ritual with Rafe Spaulding. I don't know if you've seen that film. It's a really good film, British horror film. And it's got one of the most unique monsters I've ever seen. It's really gross, but I've never seen a monster like it before, so that's really good. I also read The Apparition Phase, which James lent me, which is a book he read as well. Which I really enjoyed.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed. Sort of based around in the 70s, all about all that kind of thing. I got to say that it took a couple of turns which I was really frustrated with, but I think it worked really well. But really, actually, quite spooky and scary, and quite moving at the end.
And we can talk about it like off pod, as you were, Ross. But for me, it was only like the very ending. I was a bit like, the one kind of. I was like, oh, come on, really?
Yeah.
But apart from that, 90% of it is excellent and quite eerie.
And when you read it and it said it's all based on an article for 14 Times, it's like, brilliant.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
fantastic.
Cool. Please enjoy it.
Okay, so that was Ghostwatch. Thank you for listening. It was meant to come out for Halloween, but life.
We get busy.
But next time on the General Witchfinders, we will be returning to Hammer, and we will be watching The Reptile.
Oh, are we? Excellent.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Right.
So, which is available on BritBox, I think, and other places. So is this something you won't have to scrabble around trying to find this one? I've never seen it before. Very aware of the makeup, and I mentioned it on Twitter, and everyone was saying we should watch it. So
I've seen it 48 times.
Okay, cool.
And I can talk you through all of it now. It was shot back to back with Plague of the Zombies, which is my favourite Hammer film.
Okay. Wow. So tune in next time for The Reptile. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Until next time, take care, everybody.
Love, light, and peace.
Happy day.
You have been listening to The General Witchfinders. Support the show and continue the conversation at patreon.com/General Witchfinders. Subscribe and spread the word at generalwitchfinders.com. Farewell, and don't have nightmares.
We've cracked Stephen Volk there. I think having a change in rooms Ghostwatch crossover would be the most amazing idea.
Yeah.
Think of like a possessed Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen.
Ellen
amazing.
Bowen. I'd watch it.
Yeah.
Because that would be like, do you remember when they did that? It's got our friend Andy Nyman in it, Ross. When they did that thing where it was like Big Brother but with zombies.
Yeah, it was Black Mirror.
It would be like that.
That was very good. Dead Set.
Yeah, see? Dead Set. Yeah. That's the one.
Yeah. Put my video on. Do I need to mute myself on this now, Cleaver? I'm confused.
On Zoom.
Zoom.
Yeah, you just don't have the sound. Yeah. We were going through all the old episodes, all the past seasons of Big Brother the other day, and I completely forgot about Brian Bellow. And then we was watching him when they did a Come Dine With Me special of him making pea soup, and it was just really dry. And
did he do something where he had to eat raw eggs or something like that?
Well, we watched a bit on YouTube where he pissed himself in a caravan, and he's really embarrassed. Sorry, Big Brother, I ruined your task. I just pissed myself in the power. I feel so embarrassed.
He won, didn't he?
Yeah, but there's a really good clip of him breakdancing wearing a mankini. I'm gonna have to send you.
Oh god!
Oh, great.
He's pro Brexit and everything now, though, isn't he?
Oh
He's so
no!
thick, isn't he?
OB idea, Parky gravitas. British doubt, rockets and stuff. Human pulp. OB idea, human pulp. Parky human pulp. Gravitas pulp. Stuff pulp. Creeping around like a fucking creeping Jesus. Shoot to kill! Shoot to kill! Human pulp. Parky. Shoot to kill! Shoot to kill! Parky. Shoot to kill! Shoot to kill!
As they say in swimming pools, a heavy petting. Stone tape bribes.
British doubt, rockets and stuff. 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 I love changing rooms. Love, light and peace.
Happy day.
Studio's completely dark. Just blackness now. All the lights have failed. The power's gone off. We've got some lights in the studio. I don't know. There's cameras, but I don't know which one's working. I mean, there are no cameramen. I mean, difficult to know, even if anybody's still with us. But if they are, this is the scene in this studio, this totally deserted studio. Good. Autocue's working. Round and round the garden, like a teddy bear.
Tiffany's a story of a sentence. Did you?